Welcome to the Great Man Within podcast. Every episode is designed to help you discover and live the great man within you. We need to have an important conversation today, brother. It's time to stop playing it safe. I see so many good men, really good men, sacrificing their greatness in the name of safety. This past week, I was flying home cross country from a vacation that I took out in nature in the middle of nowhere, Idaho. And as I was reflecting upon some of the places I went, spiritually speaking, mentally speaking, physically speaking, I felt inspired to pull out a pen and a paper, and I drew two columns. On the left-hand side, I wrote down what a good man does. And on the right-hand side, I wrote down what a great man does. Now, you're here listening to the Great Man Within podcast because you know there is a great man inside of you waiting to come out. The version of you that lives his fullest potential, that finds his purpose and builds his life around it. And the dividing line oftentimes between a good man and a great man is his willingness, your willingness, to transcend what is safe for you. And so as I started filling out this column of what a good man does, there's some beautiful things that good men do. God knows that this world needs more good men. But I'm not here on the show calling forward good men. I'm calling for the great men. You're listening to this show because you know there is greatness inside of you wanting to come out. So I'd like to read to you some of the distinctions that I've seen between good men and great men. And quite frankly, many of these things came from parts of my life where I settled for safety, where I had every reason to stay stuck or stay where I was because things were good. But over the course of time, just like you, I know have experienced, there's a deeper calling. And if you ignore it or suppress it or don't go after it, you will never be satisfied with yourself. Here's what I wrote down. A good man protects what he has, but a great man pursues his ultimate potential. Right? A good man goes to great lengths to protect what he already has. There's a certain fear in going for more because he may lose that which he's already gained. But a great man knows that he can't lose. He knows the only way he can lose is by not going after his fullest potential. A good man is respected by others, but a great man is admired. A good man is oftentimes the highest performer that he knows. A great man surrounds himself with other great men. Now, this may not sound like it takes the necessary step of transcending safety to surround yourself with other great men, but I would beg to differ. It takes courage to surround yourself with other men who may be further ahead in their life than you are, who may be more, say, financially successful or more accomplished in the area that you want to be. Maybe they're physically more gifted or have worked to an extent where they're in better shape than you are. Maybe they have the romantic relationship that you aspire to. Right? Maybe they've been doing deep inner work for years and you're a newbie. It takes courage to be the guy at the lowest rung of the totem pole. And so many other guys who are doing really good things just want to sit atop their kingdom and don't ever want to stretch. How do I know this? I was that guy. Now I'm surrounding myself with people who are light years more impressive than I am in many areas of their lives because I want to be called forward. And that was an edge for me. It was humbling for me. A good man has a sharpened mind. A great man has an open heart. I see this all over the place, right? I mean, the men who listen to this podcast are very high-performing guys who have accomplished things in their lives. And in many respects, and we heard this from Dr. Addis, who did the podcast with us just a few weeks ago, The Unspoken Realities of Men's Inner Lives. He said from a very young age, men learn that performance is the only thing that matters. And oftentimes performance comes from the mind, comes from being intellectually gifted, So we work our entire lives to sharpen our mind at the expense of our hearts, shutting down emotions, because emotions are oftentimes vilified. Emotions are the things that can sabotage us. That's what we get taught. And so we work very hard to not feel, to not get too high when things are great, to not get too low when things are bad. And then over the course of time, we snuff out all of our feelings. And then our romantic partners can't feel us. Our wins, the feelings are fleeting. The losses maybe are more painful, but the worst thing of all is when we can't feel much of anything in either direction. A great man works to open his heart. And that's a scary proposition, because what's in there after being closed down for so long is also a lot of pain, sadness, stuff that hasn't been dealt with. That requires energy, emotion, distraction, frustration, feeling like the floor's been ripped out from underneath you. Again, how do I know this? I've been to all those places. Yeah, a good man can live his life with a sharpened mind, but disconnected from his heart. Only a great man, the only way you can be a great man, is showing up with an open heart. A good man is willing to make incremental change in his life. A great man is willing to change everything. I remember reading this passage in The Way of the Superior Man by David Dada, where he gives the edict, be willing to change everything in your life. There's a point in time where the very thing that you built your entire life around will lose its interest to you. And that's confusing, right? Because it feels like a failure. It feels like, holy shit, did I just build my life around a mirage or a myth? When in actuality, what Dada teaches is you have already fulfilled that part of your purpose. And that layer of the onion has now unfolded. And now you're closer to the center. But you have to be able to recognize that, not as a failure, but as a next stage in process. And oftentimes that can require giving up everything that you've already built your life around. I did that when it came to leaving a 15-year corporate career. For those 15 years, my life was about ascending the ladder, making the money, getting the title, getting the prestige, feeling financial security, until there was no fire left. And I could have continued climbing that ladder, getting more money, having more opportunities for sure. But that would have been comfortable. That would have been boring. And you would have seen the spark in my eye dissolve like I'd seen so many other people before me, and I vowed never to do that. I was in search of greatness, and that required making some pretty big changes to leave that behind, to start something from scratch. And I would say it's working out pretty damn well here. A good man goes to great lengths to prevent risk. A good man goes to great lengths to prevent or avoid risk. But a great man goes to great lengths to live his life of purpose. Do you get the difference here? A good man on the other side of safety, right? He's working hard to prevent risk, to prevent failure, to avoid those difficult feelings. But a great man is not building his life around avoiding something. A great man is going after that which inspires him from his deepest core, which oftentimes means facing failure, temporary failure, facing setbacks, facing disappointment, facing heartbreak. I've experienced all of those things. And I know many of the men who are working in this mastermind, some of you listeners who have had a chance to get to know from your outreach have shared those stories with me as well. But a great man lives his life around that which inspires him, not building walls around that which scares him. A good man accumulates many impressive personal achievements, but a great man builds a legacy that leaves the world a better place than how he found it. Think about that big difference. I see plenty of good men racking up accolades, achievements, wins, bank accounts, but a great man leaves a legacy, is working towards leaving this place, the world, a better place than how he found it. That takes courage, because that means confronting status quo. That means leading other men. If you want to leave a legacy and leave the world a better place, you have to become a leader. That's very different than personal achievement, right? Those two things can overlap, but oftentimes what's required to be an effective leader is very different than what's required for you to win individually. A good man appreciates novelty, that which is new, the bells and whistles. A great man is the guy who hungers for mastery. He is achieving and striving for mastery. So as we see really good men going out and buying the next book that's interesting, listening to the next podcast that's interesting, taking the 6-week seminar that's interesting, a great man, he's going after mastery. He goes deeper. He's not in the 6-week program. He's in the 6-year program. He knows what he's going after. He's not going after some weekend workshop. He's on the path of doing inner work for the rest of his life, right? That's why the men that are on this path, why I keep talking about over the next 10 years, my mission here is to help inspire 10 million men to get and stay on the path of inner work, because we can create a tectonic shift in humanity when these are the types of men who lead businesses, communities, who step up in families, right? We can create change. That's a difference. A good man needs to constantly be in motion. A great man savors stillness, right? A good man needs to constantly be in motion, doing, achieving, acting. A great man knows how to sit with himself. There's that old adage of all of man's problems stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room by himself, which is so true. If you're unable to bring stillness into your life, to be with yourself, the only person that you are with 24/7, 365 days a year, if you are unable to curate a relationship with yourself alone in stillness, that's loving, that's kind, that finds a sense of inner peace, if you're unable to connect with that or to curate that in your life, greatness will elude you. And I don't want you to feel frustrated if you've attempted to do that to this point and you have not considered yourself successful. It took me a long time to develop that skill set. But as Napoleon Hill always says, step number 1 in getting anything you want in your life is to generate a burning desire. Not just a desire, a burning desire. The difference between the haves and the have-nots are the haves have the burning desire, something that they are unwilling to compromise on. So if you are committed to getting to know yourself at the deepest core, to know what your purpose is, to live your fullest potential, you are not going to do that being in perpetual motion. You need to be able to create and savor stillness in your life. Here's another one I'm passionate about. A good man hates losing more than he loves winning. A good man hates losing more than he loves winning. A great man loves winning, period. There is no hate. Now, this is one I'm passionate about because I hear so many sports leaders, coaches, athletes talk about how the driving force in their life is that they hate losing more than they love winning. And by that very equation, they have given hate the driver's seat of their life. Think about that. The avoidance of hate, the energy of hate is a much bigger driver in their life than anything else because they hate more losing. And that's the fuel that they run their lives off of. Now, there is no argument from me that you can be extraordinarily successful. And I put that successful in quotes, meaning you can win a lot of games that way. You can win a lot of prizes that way. You can win a lot of fame that way. But if you're playing the game of feeling good, being connected to your purpose and engaged every single day and enjoying the journey, then you cannot have hate as the centerpiece of your life. So great men, in this one humble man's view, a great man builds his life around that which he loves. He loves winning. He knows how to savor it and celebrate it. And also not to be satisfied with it because he wants more, hungers for more. But he's not putting hate as a prominent player in his life. A good man knows how to win. A great man knows how to help others win. And this goes back to, again, having the courage to lead other men. A good man knows how to push to get what he wants, but a great man knows how to recharge, right? A great man knows how to recover. I see so many dudes on their way to burnout or burning out or feeling like the weight of the world is on their shoulders because they know how to operate in that capacity. I certainly did too. But I had to learn later in life, and I'm still learning, the things that allow me to wind down, to disconnect, to get a great night's sleep, to take a vacation and not do work or have anxiety be the thing that fuels my fire so that I can come back inspired, live a life feeling like glowing with positive energy versus constantly feeling like the frenzy, the fire hose is what's driving my life. A good man strives for perfection. A great man strives for excellence. A good man strives for perfection. A great man strives for excellence. And the courage that's required to make that shift is that excellence means losing. Excellence means failing. Excellence means a constant commitment and also a recognition to knowing that you're not perfect and that's fucking okay. This illusion of perfection, which I spent most of my life striving towards, this illusion of perfection was because of the fact that I felt incomplete on some deeper level unless I was achieving, unless I was getting it perfect. I know you know what that feels like, but making that shift to excellence and showing up as excellence every single day and allowing myself to fail on certain attempts, to get back up and strive for excellence is a very different ballgame. That requires knowing who I am at my deepest level of myself. And I want to hit one final category here about a distinction between the good man and the great man, and that's with respect to the emotion of anger. Okay? I see so many good men have unprocessed relationships with their anger that keep them stuck from becoming great men. And oftentimes, confronting that anger requires courage. And so we stay stuck in safety and never process that anger. So let me give you some distinctions here. A good man will often suppress his anger to protect the shrapnel from hitting others. Right? A good man doesn't know how to navigate his anger, doesn't want to say the wrong thing, doesn't want to hurt someone else, doesn't want to say something he can't take back. So he'll suppress that anger to protect others from receiving the shrapnel. But a great man knows how to feel his anger, stand in that anger, and to express his anger resourcefully from a clear mind and with intensity. A good man will carry around that unprocessed anger as his own burden, almost like jumping on top of a grenade, allowing it to detonate internally so it doesn't detonate externally. A good man will do that because he doesn't want to hurt other people. But a great man can feel that anger fully. He can express the anger in the direction that it needs to be expressed, and we'll talk about that in a moment, and then he can release it so it no longer is inside of him, causing him angst, tightening him up, turning into resentment. A good man, over time, will have enough suppressed anger that it will turn to outbursts of rage. A good man will allow that anger that's been suppressed for too long to turn into outbursts of rage. But a great man, over time, that emotion of anger and his relationship to it can sharpen his masculine leadership into becoming a healthy warrior. A warrior who can draw boundaries. A warrior whose anger is righteous because maybe it's against the oppressed, maybe because he's standing up for the oppressed, or a boundary has been crossed, right? Or a value has been impeded upon. Learning how to navigate and express your anger allows you to stand up for what you believe in and to protect others who can't protect themselves. While the poor good man, who's been trying so hard to not unleash his anger on others, allows it to detonate inside of him until it turns to rage, oftentimes exploding at the very people or the things he cares about the most. One of the things that I learned at the Mankind Project, which is a global organization that teaches men what's called new warrior training, is how to develop a healthy relationship with anger. And one of the things that I will always remember from going to that weekend 5 years ago, they said that anger, unprocessed anger, always comes out in one of three ways, one of three directions. The first direction is it'll come out sideways in the form of passive aggressiveness, sarcasm, cynicism, right? We see a lot of men walking around these days with passive aggressiveness, with cynicism, sarcasm. It's because they're hurting inside and haven't been able to process that anger. It's being held in, and it's a form of release. Another way is that unprocessed anger will come out internally. It'll go inwards in the form of a harsh inner critic and negative self-talk. That was my poison of choice. When I was sitting on those detonated grenades, I would beat myself up internally. And then the third way is that unprocessed anger will come out externally, outwards, through the form of outbursts, combativeness, feeling like the world is against you and then raging against it. These are what happen. These are the processes that happen when unprocessed anger festers over a long period of time. And so many good men are carrying around that anger. I can tell because guys are tight. Guys don't feel emotions. I can feel the constriction inside. It's exhausting to carry around that anger, right? Or guys have hair triggers and just in a moment's notice will find a reason to be pissed off or take everything personally. Like depending on which one of those three reactions to unprocessed anger you have, I can quickly and easily see it. Again, because I lived with unprocessed anger. And it takes courage to step across the aisle, to inspect the things that make you angry, to confront the people or the situations where your boundaries have been crossed. Oftentimes, underlying that anger is a deep sadness, which means confronting those emotions, which could wipe you out from being productive on a particular day or looking strong when you want to. That takes courage, but great men do it. So, gentlemen, it is time to stop playing safe because you are sacrificing your greatness in the name of just protecting what's good. And that will only play for so long until you know you won't be able to look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, without knowing that you're playing a small life. And if you continue listening to Brian and I here on this show, I promise you, I will never allow you to stay stuck there. Consider this one of many wake-up calls. Join me and the rest of the men who have committed to greatness on the path of doing inner work. If you consider yourself a leader amongst your friends, your other men in your life that you care about, this is an episode tailor-made for those guys to listen to so they can self-identify as where they're playing a small game of the good man versus going after the great man in their life. So do them the service of sharing this episode with them and letting them know that you're doing so because you see the greatness in them. We'll see you all on the path.